Okay. Can you see this here?
I can. It's nice.
Well, let's introduce the project. We, at the Landscape and Nursery Technology and Landscape Architecture disciplines at Southwestern College, we have 4 beautiful acres that have been in development since 1975, and we call that the South Bay Botanic Garden. It's a registered public garden, and in many ways, it's kind of the laboratory in which we teach horticulture, and it's been kind of the byproduct of learning over many generations. So in order to study plant identification, we have many different plants available. In order to have practical design exercises, we've had students design various elements, and then we've had construction classes build the various elements. And for those of you who have been to the South Bay Botanic Garden, you're very familiar with the fact that it is designed, built, and maintained by students. So now we have the ability for the first time in the history of the program to get some serious funding to help to bring the facility up to a standard that will help enhance our education. And I've kind of been saying to myself and saying to some people that the facility, there's certain things that are great, but there's also some things that are old and past their useful life. And if you dig anywhere in the ground, you will find some kind of crazy artifact. And it will, keeping the garden going is really tough at this point. It needs some serious infrastructure help, along with an update to current codes, for instance, ADA accessibility and things like that. So we have this wonderful opportunity that is coming from the campus and from the bond money. So this is Chula Vista taxpayers paying for this. That is going to give us new classroom facilities. Basically, every physical piece of infrastructure in the garden and classrooms is coming down, and we're saving as much plant material as we can, and then going to be rebuilt. And instead of just rebuilding things in the place where they currently are, we took an opportunity to kind of redesign and in some ways have a little bit of a master plan for what we would need for a facility. So here I have the general top-down view, which is actually, this one is, I think, the lighting plan, but it gives a pretty good view of what we have as our general plan. Now, if you're not familiar with the garden as it exists, it can be kind of difficult to orient yourself. But I'll just point out a few of the key features and describe some of the design decisions that were made in coming to this design, and then I can show the diagrams. And Michelle, if you have any questions or anything that can help guide me to uh, give good information, feel free to chime in. But what we look at here is the entire boundary of our site, and this is the current boundary of the garden. There's a few things that are going to change with the entire campus, and part of the facility's master plan. One of the biggest changes is that the ring road, that circular perimeter road that people drive on, is going to be expanded. And the intention is to have people drive and then park inside and then walk inside that to campus. So literally kind of a stop sign crosswalk problem is going to bring the perimeter road out, and it will become the front door of our new design. So unfortunately, that road won't be built right away. So we are building this garden to butt up to a road that will be built in the future. But the future plan is that every person who visits the campus will drive right by the garden and the horticulture program. And so we want that to be a beautiful display and a very inviting and interesting thing where everybody who drives by says, hey, what's going on over there? So one of the key goals of this design was campus connectivity. Another key goal of this design was that we are an education facility first. So the teaching and learning that happens here is more important than the community garden or the public garden aspect. So for instance, we will never sacrifice teaching and learning and actual classes uh, for the sake of doing like a workshop or trying to appeal to the general public. Although we do want to have general public appeal, of course. And so with those two things in mind, we've done a few things. Currently, there's a perimeter fence that goes around the border of the entire garden, and that is necessary for some security. But one of the big changes is we're bringing that fence in. So the line that I'm tracing here with my cursor, as long as you all can see my cursor, this line is going to be the new perimeter fence. And let me see if I can zoom in. So along our fence will be several gates, and each of these gates is designed to be an introductory feature, and it's actually going to have its own name. So that every gate has a name and potential dedication opportunities as well. And what that means is it gives us something of a front yard and a backyard, is what I call it. The front yard is intended to be more of demonstration gardens. So we have different themes as you can walk along sort of a promenade here. Different themes ranging from California native plants focusing on coastal sage scrub habitat. There's a section that's going to be bulbs that pop up in the winter. We have pollinator gardens along the outside of the fence, kind of giving sort of that cottage garden feel along with the native pollinator habitat. A large water feature at the front that becomes a photo opportunity. It's a selfie stop with a little bit of a monument sign. And then the walkway here is going to be a subtropical garden. So kind of focusing on a little bit of that kind of tropical look, things that even though they may not be 100% low water use, they're still climate appropriate, but give it a bit more of that tropical feel. And the reason we chose those themes in those specific locations is because we're saving tree material. So the large trees that have been mature, we can't just, I can't allow anyone to just come in and cut this all down. And believe me, they're going to cut a lot of it down, but we are saving many, many, many trees. And so these trees kind of can now dictate what is an appropriate theme for these different areas. The other big change is all of our classroom buildings, which is what you see here. They're in relatively the same place as they are currently. Currently, though, they open to the outside. And now all of our classroom buildings will open to the inside with operable windows and clear windows that you can see in and out. And the indoor-outdoor transition will be much more feasible, very simple. Everything kind of looks into this central quad, which is lawn. This will be grass, a large turf area. And some of it will be grass paved because we had to make it possible for the fire truck to drive in. So that was a compromise that had to be made, unfortunately. Everything focuses on our large southern live oak, which will be in the center of the garden. And in many ways, this oak tree forms the heart of the design. So our front path from the corner will actually look straight at this tree. The other gate that comes in from the walkway will pass through a formal garden and then look right at this tree. You can see clearly the walkway here. And our classrooms will look out at it. On this other side are two new greenhouse facilities that will also open into the quad here. And then we have a brand new multi-purpose room, which will be an 80-person capacity flexible space with tables and chairs that can be moved. The governing board is actually going to be meeting here. So as the construction on campus takes place and displaces our governing board, the people who make decisions for the campus, they are going to be meeting in this room. This will be a rentable space and also a space for classes and lectures, larger events and displays and activities. It will have a warming kitchen as well, so no ovens, but there will be refrigeration and kind of microwave, the ability to have potlucks and keep things warm for an event space like this. The other big change, currently our material storage yard is up in this what is that, the northeast corner, I suppose. And because this will become front real estate, front view for people driving, this is going to be our urban farm. It's not a community garden because you won't rent out a plot, but it is a student-run farm that will be built and run by students. And so people can drive by and see it. You take a little 1-credit class, and now you can become sort of this intern or apprentice on our student-run farm. So we're planning to do annual vegetables here as row crops, along with some seeding. The orchard will remain in place, and some kind of a hands-on area. And I'll show you renderings of all this so it becomes a little more clear. And then the final big feature is our the shop, the garage, where we keep our tools and storage. We will also have a classroom here, which we're calling the small engine lab, where construction classes and landscape maintenance classes can kind of get oil and grease in places and work on projects out in this patio space. So as we look at the overall design, you can see we've got our front yard, which is very detailed, and the pathways are very well defined. That's the demonstration, but we can't lose the fact that we want students to be able to work and build. And so the urban farm, the orchard, this patio and raised planter area, and all of this back area here is kind of the place where we can make a mess, get dirty, and we'll have students building things. It's where there can be art and all sorts of other collaborations with other departments as well. The area that we're going to talk about is right here. And unfortunately, I don't have a great rendering at this time, but I can describe it. It will be in between the small engine lab where students are doing construction, one of our greenhouses, which will have an aquaponics setup, and then a shade house for propagation. We have some restrooms right here. And so a lot of propagation work will be happening here. And we have this beautiful little pocket, which is a shady space. All of these circles you see are the canopies of trees. So that's the trunk and the canopy. And some plans for little walkways. These are blank patios that the intention is for demonstration, display, and everything else will remain virtually raw from a landscape architect's perspective. Also in this little square, we have another blank space. And the intention here is it's a space where we can repeatedly design, build, display, and then tear it down again, kind of following a model that you would see at like the San Diego County Fair when they have those competitions. So we have our own space that can be kind of like that, and I'm calling it the sandbox. It's not sand, but the walls are here, and whatever we want to do within that can, whether it's every semester we build something and tear it down, or whether it's every semester we add something, and it kind of builds and becomes this very interesting, little bit more crazy and chaotic look, as opposed to the more formal space out here. So there's many different areas in which we can do some things, but I will let you know the plans have been updated slightly, and this patio here is at roughly the same size, but we found a beautiful circular paver labyrinth. So this already will have a round paver patio, and the pavers are two-tone colors, and it's designed to be a labyrinth, which is kind of a formal meditation garden element. So the idea is you can walk in and you follow this winding path that, even though you're in a small space, takes you all around, and as you walk you kind of think and reflect. So the idea was this space here would be a great meditation garden, and in addition to that, there's some interest in kind of where is the quiet space? Where is that little sanctuary where people can be reflective and even potentially if we want to not necessarily memorialize people or anything, but if you want like your own little personal place, where do you go? And this place here is the primary space for that. It can be hard to get a sense of scale, but would it be helpful if I show you the renderings to help expand? Then we can do kind of question and answer maybe. Michelle, you're muted.
I also pulled some pictures of like meditation gardens just to kind of give you guys a sense of when we're talking about that, like setting the tone for that.
Perfect. Let me run through this real quick, and this will just help to illustrate. These are from April, and so they're a little bit old. Things have changed a bit, but this is pretty close to what it will look like from a built perspective. Now, the landscape here, many places is kind of still blank space, but these renderings are showing the built materials that are going to be used for our buildings. And this building here that you first see is we're calling it the administrative building. This will have faculty offices. This will have 2 single occupancy restrooms, a meeting room, so we can have conferences and meetings with different agencies and groups, and students can use this space too. This will be somewhat of a library as well. And then it's hard to see on this side, but we will have a small sales office where people who purchase plants can buy their plants from us. So this building is on virtually, this is exactly where the current classrooms sit. And if we go down to the classroom building, so we were previously up by this student and we walked down this way. This is where our current shop buildings sit. So the large and small shed that hold all of our tools are currently in this footprint. And we have 3 classrooms going in. We have a laboratory room, which is where our floral design and some of our soil science courses will be held. We have a standard lecture room for 40 people. And then we have our design room. And don't pay attention to the furniture. That configuration is not necessarily what it will actually look like. But we sized it to be able to hold 40 originally, and now we're down to 36. There's this big battle between maximum class size and square footage. So it's going to be a large room, also with a print room in here. And each room has storage opportunities, and everything opens out to this patio. You can see it's a covered patio that is oriented to the winter sun. So winter sun will shine right through and warm the building. Summer sun will be shaded and everything will be nice and cool. You can see the material is CMU block. Part of that is for thermal mass, because the construction is designed to be energy efficient. There will be solar panels on the roof, and the intention is that there's enough solar panels to power the building over its lifetime. And the CMU block is, first of all, affordable, doesn't require extra material in siding and any sorts of toxic chemicals, but it also will act as a thermal mass. When we look
Mark,
at, yes.
hey, I'm Troy Norrell. I just have 2 questions. I'm having a hard time figuring out where. I'm not familiar with where that classroom would be at on campus. I know that there's like, I know where the garden's at, and I know like where the oak tree's at. I know basically like where the little water pond is at. But where is this building at? Is this building elevated near tennis courts?
I will show you. I'm pulling up the Google Maps right now.
Oh, I can do that. I didn't even think about that.
Well, I could do it, and I can kind of help to
Okay.
orient everybody. I know I'm
And
not.
it's, so the whole department itself is behind the auto shop complex, if you're familiar with where that is.
Yeah, I know exactly. I know where it's at. For some reason, I'm seeing this as being to the right of that, and I probably just got thrown off on the perimeter road. I think that's what kind of threw me
Yeah,
for a
because
loop.
there is a big realignment of the perimeter road coming in.
Okay,
Okay,
not
so
a big deal. I'm just having a hard time concentrating on what he's talking
this is
about.
a
My
great
brain.
question. This is a great question. Can you see the Google map here?
I think you've got to stop sharing and then start sharing again in the other screen.
How about now?
Yes, now we see it.
Gotcha.
Okay, here is our campus, and it's relatively updated because you can see the construction on the corner lot. The automotive is the building that you see as you drive around the perimeter road.
Mhm.
And Troy, you referenced the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And these are the existing tennis courts. And believe it or not, they will be moved to this parking lot here. So this will be the future tennis courts.
Hmm.
And this automotive will be going away. It will become a parking lot. And the perimeter road will come out this way. And
I want to see it. Okay.
this will be the new perimeter road. It's already there somewhat. So if we zoom in on the horticulture facility, the resolution is not so great, but you get an idea. Our current classroom is this horticulture part A. And this is where the administrative building will be in this general area. The classroom building extends down to about this area. So we have a general shape rectangle like so.
Got it.
The intention was, let's erase all constraints of hardscape, but let's try to save as many trees as possible. So when you look at that, you have a big space right here that becomes a good building space. And our multi-purpose room will be right about here. And our greenhouses will go along what is currently the gravel road right about here. So you end
Gotcha.
up with kind of the classic Mediterranean, Spanish, colonial architectural style where you have a courtyard in the middle and you have walls on all four sides. But in our case, it'll be three sides, and they'll be solar oriented with walkways and patios, and everything will open inward toward this central courtyard. And then, as you can see, the current landscape will maintain as landscape, but we will be moving around some of the key features. And the urban farm that I referenced will be in this corner here, which is currently our material storage area. And we're moving the material storage area down to here. So I was able to annex a little bit of real estate, and this becomes where we're going to store our materials.
Cool.
The other nice benefit of removing the fence, that's our current fence line. If we bring the fence in, which will be brought into about here, then we actually gain all of this space right up to the parking lot. So right now there's a relatively sizable area outside of our garden fence, but that will all be incorporated into the garden, and there will be kind of an entry point here, an entry point here, and the main entry point will be this corner here. Although right now it doesn't look like much, doesn't seem like it would be a main thoroughfare. It really will be, because this road actually will interface right down into the center of campus. So as you follow this line here, because people park over here, they walk into the center of campus, this becomes a main thoroughfare, and this will be a main thoroughfare. So we're right on the corner of some really interesting traffic, And so therefore this corner becomes really important for us.
Cool.
And Mark, maybe point out the big live oak.
Right
the-
there.
Right here in the middle. This is the southern live oak. Looks like a California coast live oak if it was over 100 years. But the southern live oak will be that sort of that heart of the garden. A lot of the focus lines are centered around this garden, or sorry, around this tree. So let me stop share and then hop back in, and I'll just finish up those renderings and we can kind of help get an idea. So you notice there's a lot of grass here. That's not going to be the case. This was just the architectural component, and the trees are in relatively the right place, but they left most of the ground cover as grass. So we won't have that much grass. We will have one main central lawn, and then the rest will be lots of different features. Here we have the multi-purpose building. You can see it's currently configured to just be sort of auditorium style or like a guest lecture, and it will have multimedia and audiovisual. We're talking about certain displays, the ability to display student work in this space as well, kind of like a gallery, so that when the governing board meets, they'll get to see all the good work we're doing and continue to be our friends. We have 2 more single occupancy restrooms here, the warming kitchens right here. This all kind of feeds into this room, storage for tables and chairs and things like that. One very interesting feature here is a solar chimney. You can see this large glass structure here, this tower. The intention is that this is hit by the sun, and it's a dark color inside and creates heat. And as this air inside of this glass chimney heats up, it rises and creates a vacuum, which will pull in the air from operable windows. So even when you're sitting here on a day with no wind, say a hot day with no wind, there will still be air flowing through this building because of an intentional temperature gradient. And there's still going to be air conditioning in all of these buildings, but because of the design features, we do not need as big of air conditioners. So those are kind of some very interesting and innovative things. Here is the garage with a little bit of an office here, kind of the tool room, and here's the classroom. And you can notice a roll-up door. We also will have a roll-up door on the floral and soil lab. And so maximizing kind of the indoor-outdoor space. And if we look, I can zoom in. If we look at this rendering here, this is looking out into kind of that meditative space. And you can't see much from this view, but you get the idea that it's going to be green and it's going to have trees and shade. And these are just random 3D trees they threw in there to try to copy the look and feel of it. Here's an image with some kind of photographic artistic focus, and it's showing the vantage point of entering the garden from that jaguar walk that we were talking about. And on the left-hand side, this is the floral classroom. We have a patio in between with the restrooms that students can access easily. This is the administrative building. And then up here we have the multi-purpose room and the heart of the garden, the tree here. And we won't have turf, but this is intended to be kind of a meadow, native meadow sort of habitat. And the tree will have its own dedicated irrigation. And because it's not a coast live oak, we can give it some summer irrigation and not worry about the fungal diseases and things like that. So definitely the focal point. Courtyard view. And then here's a view from the multi-purpose room looking back at our classroom building. So notice we have a pretty sizable patio out here. We'll have a few kind of monument benches so that on good days people can work outside, and they can even bring all sorts of materials outside and be sitting, and lots of multi-purpose usable space outdoors. And this is looking at the entrance to all 3 of our classrooms and the windows and the general building. And then here is the design room. So you can see we've got the corner of the building here. This is coming from the corner entrance, which will be the main entry. And outside of the room here will be a cactus and succulent garden as it transitions into this central courtyard open space. And if you were on the garden today, you might think it's a relatively flat site, but there's actually 16 feet of elevation gain from one side to the other. So here in this rendering, you can actually get an impression of the slight slope that takes place. There will be some leveling that needs to happen in order to build the buildings, but everything will be ADA accessible. No slope is great enough to require alternate paths of travel other than these little stairs you see here. So kind of an interesting use of the contours of the space. This is outside of the garden looking at what will be the sales office. And this is going to be another entry point. The intention is you can drive a vehicle here and you could load plants up and then drive away. It's not going to look exactly like this, but the shape of the roof in the building, that will be what this looks like. And then here we have the view from inside the multi-purpose space looking out at the courtyard and the landscape beyond. You can see the administrative building, the classroom, and then our 2 greenhouses, which will be glass greenhouses, will be on the left-hand side. So there we go. I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll let Michelle take it away. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask at any point.
Hey, Michelle, Mark, I apologize terribly. Michelle, are you recording this?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got to feed my daughter real quick.
Okay.
So I hate stepping away like right in the heart of this thing, but
That's no worries.
let me get this going.
Yeah. So thank you, Mark, for definitely going through that so thoroughly. We are compiling. So we've been given the construction documents of the latest set, and we're working on compiling a base for you guys. I want to use the landscape base, and unfortunately, the landscape architects didn't do an overall site plan. So I've got to piece a couple of things together, and we're thinking I will have that ready for you like certainly tomorrow night. We're going to be working on it. We worked on a little bit today, and we'll be working on it tomorrow night. So you will be able to have that base plan. Now I'm going to post it as a PDF and as live CAD drawing for those of you who are in CAD. And we're going to be focusing on that one meditation area, which is kind of split. And can you guys see the plans? Is it sharing? No?
No, I don't see it. I see your window.
Okay, so it's like I gotta have it open before I. Okay. I gotta stop sharing. Okay. All right, so hopefully you can see it now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so on the landscape plans, which is what I want to use, because they've placed the trees best on those. You can kind of see the dots with the overstory. So we'll be kind of designing under this overstory in this little meditative area and possibly this little wedge-shaped area. So Mark, thank you for clarifying that there is already a labyrinth going right in this spot. That I didn't understand that. I thought that was maybe one of the proposals. So we'll assume that that's a labyrinth and then add other features around it. Let me see. I gotta stop sharing and go into I wish it let me go into that thing and scroll through that whole area. Let's see if I can do this. Where's my share screen? Where is my, there it is. Can you guys see the picture? Yes, good. So these are just some ideas I pulled quickly off the internet for meditative spaces. You know, just kind of these simple pathways. I think for those of us who've had the opportunity to grow up with the garden and go to school, you'll find that this backyard space for people within the L&T and LA department becomes really home base. And so if you're really stressed out with your trigonometry class, I know I came back to the garden and would just chill out a little bit before I had to go take my test. And so you'll see a lot of our students using that and using it as a way to kind of just calm down while they're at campus. Right now, the pond area is an area that people use a lot. This is an example of a labyrinth. This is actually up in Corona. I thought they did a great job with just the decomposed granite and the stone. This is at Glen Ivy Hot Springs. But that's the idea of what a labyrinth is, where you're kind of meandering through this kind of circle path, and you're able to weave your way all the way through the complete circle. And so it's meant to be, as you walk this path, it's a very kind of a calming type of without thinking process. So that's going to be at the center, and then your job will be to add things around that center that are going to add to this kind of calming effect. So a lot of times with Japanese influence design, you see the gravel, and you can rake that and create these different patterns in it. And these are low-lying junipers, but very meditative space. You can see the benches along the edge of it. That was designed for like this type of dry garden would have been designed for like the samurai warriors after they fought battles. They would come and sit on these benches looking into these dry gardens for 14 hours and kind of just calm down after battles. And that's how that style of design evolved. The Japanese Friendship Garden has some nice spaces in Balboa Park if you get a chance to visit that, if you like Japanese gardens. Here's another labyrinth. Again, you can kind of see the way this path is, you know, you can carry this throughout and walk the entire path in and out. So that's what that centerpiece is going to be. Here's another one. Lots of examples of that. Here's kind of, it's almost this is a lavender garden. It's still got little pathways in it, but a lot of times these are in those kind of meditative space. Here's a plan view drawing of a meditation garden. So just to help you guys along with kind of understanding how something like that, these spaces might look in plan view. I really like this. This was at Duke University. So, you know, just kind of this calm space. This one has a little water feature and little chairs to kind of hang out in. But these are all ideas that you could bring into that surrounding area around the labyrinth. Just a little sitting area. So some ideas there. Sure, okay. What else do I want to show you guys? I did put together the project assignment. This is currently in Canvas, so you can download it tonight, take a look at it. But it's going to be at a 24 by 36 inch scale, so we're full size. I will provide, again, PDFs will be posted tomorrow. I will also send those in to be printed. So you guys can either take them into a print shop, like, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? So you can take that PDF and you could print it over the weekend at Staples, Office Depot, FedEx, Kinko's, or you can wait until early next week. I will have some printouts available. Now we are back not working in my office again. So I can drop them off on at the garden so that when Leo's there from 11 to 1 handing out floral, they can be there. I could leave them in front of my house. You guys can drop off your sketchbooks because I've got to get those from you. You know, and then there's a little bit more of a window of opportunity. So I don't know if you guys have feedback for me on how, if you want me to pick up, print out the full size 24 by 36 inch plans, base plans for you to work off of, how you would prefer to get those, pick those up. Anybody want to chime in on that? Or you can print them out yourselves. The other thing you'll want to pick up is a sheet of vellum, 24 by 36. We generally we put vellum over the plans and we draw our design on the vellum. And then the vellum is what we would take into the printers to print out so that we're always preserving our original line work. And then we would color on those printouts. So Tish is really difficult to work at that scale for beginners, and that's because you guys tend to do a lot of erasing and you can easily tear the Tish. So vellum acts a lot like Tish, but it's a little bit thicker and it holds up better, and then that's what they would scan through the big machine if you're going to be working by hand. If you're already fluent in CAD, we'll also provide you a 2D CAD base that you can work on. A lot of the students are going into PowerPoint more and more. So you could do your final presentation in PowerPoint like you've done for the past projects, like especially the first project, a lot of you presented in PowerPoint. Or you could mount these on foam core boards, or, well, since we won't be in the office, you'll just have to take a picture. So you don't even need to mount those on foam core boards. You just have to show your images during the presentation meeting. Part 1 is doing a conceptual bubble diagram. So I'll give you, a half size set or about an 11 by 17 version. And then you can work on your bubble diagram on that. Then you'll kind of flush out your design at full size on the 24 by 36. Because this is a planting design class, you're going to have to pick at least 5 plants by species. Other plants can be just, evergreen, canopy tree, or flowering accent tree. They can be more generic, but I want to see you guys researching some actual plants and container sizes, and we'll go through where to look for research. You're going to provide some support graphics. So we've worked on section elevations in our lab time, and then we just did a perspective lab. So one of those 2 formats, you'll draw either a section elevation or perspective of your space, and then rounding up some support imagery to kind of also flesh out how your concept takes shape and some of the ideas you're bringing that maybe don't show up in plan view. Generally, we take the vellum to the print shop, and then I suggest making a couple copies of that, and then having one for practice on the color, and the other one you'll color yourself. You can certainly digitally color for those of you who might know Photoshop or Illustrator too. And then we'll have the final night of class, we'll have our presentation night. So we'll talk a little bit more, I think, going forward, do a quick kind of meeting like this on Thursdays. So next Thursday, we'll talk about legends. We can talk about concept statements and some skills. And then if you guys are getting stuck or you want to show me your progress on the plans, you'll have the opportunity for a critique. But then you're going to present your design to the students. So you've got 3 weeks. So it's really typical once this stage comes and we give you the big white piece of paper to freeze and get kind of white paper, fear of white paper paralysis. So there's some tips on how to get through that. The bubble diagramming is a great way. You're working at a smaller scale. It's loose and free. So if you're feeling stuck with the big piece of paper, go back to bubble diagramming and play with the relationships between different elements in the design space. A lot of times if I get stuck, I will lay a piece of sketch paper or vellum over the top and just start tracing the lines that are already there. And sometimes just getting your pencil to paper helps get that process going. It also helps you understand the designer who came before you and what their intent was in laying out the actual outline of the space. And then another strategy is to take that half-size drawing and design at the smaller scale first, because there's less detail at the smaller scale. So kind of penciling it out, small scale, and then, you know, translating that into the big scale can sometimes get you through those pure white paper hurdles. So the final night of class is December 10th. So that's when we'll have our presentation. But on Thursdays at 6:45 p.m., we'll do these little meetings. I'll record them, but I can give you some of these tips on how we put together callouts and legends, where to go to research plant materials, rendering tips, and any other questions you might have.
Dominic has a question in the chat.
All right.
He has a comment and a question.
All right, Dominic.
Well, he says, sorry, I'm not able to turn my mic on right now, but he is okay with going to a print shop. It's probably closer than driving to the school. The question is, will Staples be able to do it?
Yeah, so you can take the PDF on a flash drive, and Staples, Office Depot, FedEx, Kinko's should all be able to print from that. I've had FedEx, Kinko's pull these things of like, oh, I'm so busy, it's going to be 2 days before I can print your paper out. So I've kind of given up on them, and I tend to go to Office Depot and Staples, and they don't seem to have that problem. Make sure that they just print out black and white. We're staying with 24 by 36, so that they should have, that's their standard size paper, and I keep it that way. So it should be about $5 or $6 to print out the 24 by 36 base sheet. Should not be very much.
And then the only thing I heard, Michelle, is that you referenced meeting next week on Thursday, which I believe is Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, we're not going to meet on Thanksgiving. Thank you. What I'll probably do then is I will do a little demo for next week. Maybe next week I'll start with how to research plants, and you know, kind of do a live demo where I can go on some of the websites where you can, for those of you who haven't taken Plant ID, where you can research where to find plants. All right. Thanks for catching that, Mark.
My pleasure.
Any other questions, you guys?
The white paper paralysis, you can just wear sunglasses too.
It what?
You can just wear sunglasses if you have the
There
white
you
paper
go.
paralysis.
Sunglasses at night, like that 80s song. Yeah, it's a real thing, and I think all new designers go through it. So it's a lot easier in the classroom when we're live to get you unstuck. And so this is all a little, it's, you know, with this being the first in the series, I know that this is probably going to be a hard hurdle, but this is where all those little skills start to play into, and it's just kind of putting them all together. So
one of the things that as instructors and students, we all have to do is we've all had to figure out, where is our little space in our house? Where is the place where we can do work and where we can kind of like go into a zone, and where's our little creative spot? So hopefully by now you found that. And as you're working on this project and all your others, you can be able to be in your little creative zone that's comfortable and has all the things you need.
yeah, and when we're working at this bigger format, I've seen students do a really cool thing where they get almost like a piece of a door, and they put a handle on it for maybe if they don't have room to leave it out on the dining room table, and they can tape it to this section of door, and they just kind of can tuck it behind the couch or something so the kids don't destroy it and pour popsicles all over it. But that might be a strategy if some of you guys are space impaired, on how to be able to lay it out and pick it up easily and put it away and keep it safe.
Tape some cardboard together and
Yeah,
Amazon boxes.
there you go. Multiple layers of Amazon boxes. All right.
And then
Well,
Dominic just says, no more questions from him.
awesome.
Thank you for the overview.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate you wandering. It's fun to see the progress of the garden. It's been a while since I've gotten to see the developments. Looking really good and very exciting. So,
Yes, it's very exciting. And we're at the nerve-wracking stage, to be perfectly honest, because we are saving some trees by boxing them up. And that is happening that is happening next week.
wow, very
So
exciting.
the garden already looks different than how everybody remembers it. And
Mhm.
within a month or so, it'll look very, very different. And for the spring semester, will be under construction. So the timeline is moving forward and there's been no delays. In fact, there has been some
Nice.
pushing the start date forward. And I am all in favor of that because what better time to do it than now when we can't be in the garden?
Oh, exactly, exactly. Well, it's
We'll have
exciting.
24-hour time-lapse cameras that will have a web address that anybody can look at any time. So there will be 2 vantage points in the garden that I was able to even give input on. So we'll be able to watch the process. And the construction firm is really eager and willing to have walkthroughs or even guest lectures and things like that.
Great. And
We're this is
which,
Balfour Beatty.
okay, great. Nice. They do a lot of college work. Great.
Yes. And
Nice.
of course, right now for the next semester for spring, we're 100% online. So there's, nothing that really can be done too much other than remote Zoom conferencing, and the webcam will be exciting to be able to check on regularly. But this construction process, the plan is for it to take about 1 calendar year. So we assume that halfway through construction, that there will be a return to face-to-face, especially if a vaccine becomes more widely available in the summer of 21. Then we anticipate this project being in the interesting phase of observation by the time we return face-to-face. And there is a commitment from the contractors that students will have lots of access. We just have to plan ahead and they'll give us all hard hats. We get to walk on through and get to check things out.
Great. That's very exciting. I know I asked for that at the science building and they kept just forgetting about me. So I guess when it's our own garden, we'll have better insights to that.
Much more control and direct access. Absolutely.
And so we did actually, Mark and I attended a meeting today with Cal Poly Pomona, talking about both how to make it easier for our local students to move over to a program like Cal Poly Pomona with credit for work that they've done. So that we actually have a few students there, former students there right now, who are in the master's and bachelor's programs. So that's working out well, and they seem very amenable to setting up a package like that. So that's going to be in the works, and some cross-border opportunities that will be around too. So there's a lot of exciting things happening with this department. Good time to be here, everyone. All right, well, I'm gonna let you guys go tonight. Again, I have been recording this. So I will post the recording. It'll take a while because I gotta put it on, it's gotta export it, put it on YouTube, and then link it back to Canvas, which takes forever. So, but it'll be up tonight, probably later or tomorrow morning, and I will get the base sheets probably midday tomorrow because we're gonna be working on them in the morning. And you have 3 weeks from tonight. So fast and furious little project. Worth the same amount as your other 2 projects. So a lot of times I weight this last one a lot more, but I've noticed some people are kind of all over the place on completing things. So I'll play it by ear.
Thank you for your time, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It's been a
Mark.
pleasure.
Appreciate your walkthrough and all the excitement of the new facility.
If you're open to it, I'd like to see the finished results. Maybe if
Absolutely.
if
Would love to
students
have
are
it.
willing to share, you can include me.
They don't
on the
really have a
email.
choice. So it'll be the last night of class, which is Thursday, December 10th at 6:45. So we'd love to have you chime in.
Very good. We'll see. I don't know yet if I can attend live, but one way or another, I look forward to checking
Yeah,
them
we'll
out.
video. Yeah,
There we go.
absolutely. Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone. Night.